if you know that, hey, I really want to tell my story, but I'm a little scared because, what do people think about me? But that's the good chaos. Like, yeah, that's okay. You can have that sense of nervousness or fear, but this is the right thing to do for the right reason. So you want to invite that chaos in and then push past that panic point so it opens up a whole new world for you.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hello and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. It's Rick Nusky. I'm your host, and I'd just like to say, as always, thank you so very much for your warm and wonderful feedback. It's just amazing. So knowing that it's making a difference to you is making all the difference. Now on today's show, I'm with the wonderful Jothi Dugar. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here today.
Yes, it's wonderful to have you here. Now, I was looking through your bio. You have a rich background, and we're going to be talking about all of those things. But before we do that, it's customary for us, Jothi, to learn a little bit more about you. Things like where you're located and what you like to do in your pastimes.
Sure. So I'm in Great Falls, Virginia, which is a wonderful area to be in. It's kind of an oasis in the middle of a city. We're only about half an hour from DC, but there's about 30 acres of just beautiful woodlands and trees, and kind of like you feel like you're living in the middle of a jungle.
Wonderful.
which is great. It's just Mother Nature. I do a lot of things for my pastimes. Kind of a jack of all trades, I guess a master of none, I guess.
Yeah. Classic. Yep.
But I am a professional dancer. I have a dance company, and I teach young kids as well as adults just how to express themselves using the power of dance and the performing arts. And I combine different Indian as well as American movements and music together. We actually perform at NBA and WNBA halftime shows when they used to exist.
Yeah, wow. So in terms of the style of dance, movement of the body can be very powerful, and combine it with music. How do you feel when you dance?
Oh, that is my go-to. I've been dancing since I was 3 years old, and that was kind of my safe space where I can really express myself and just really be free and open and just embody the how I feel into movement, which so I love it. I still resort to it when I need to kind of just let loose and just express myself in a mature
dance.
way.
Yes,
Yep.
thank you very much for sharing. Now, as I've mentioned, you have a lot of different experiences. In actual fact, you're at the top of the tree as a female cybersecurity executive. I was wondering if we could learn a little bit more about, I guess, that side of your life.
Yeah. So I do believe that everyone has an analytical side and a creative side, and sometimes we just have to find a way to merge them together. So my creative side is through the art of dance as well as holistic wellness, which I know we'll get to a little bit.
Yes.
But my analytical side is through cybersecurity, and I think everything in life happens to you for a reason. So when I get asked this question, like, how did you get into it? I actually wasn't planning to get into it. It just kind of happened. I was an electrical engineering major in college, but really didn't do anything with that. I traveled the world for about 5 years doing consulting work for Ernst & Young, which was just the best years of my life. And then I worked about 15 years in Department of Defense, and while I was there, one of my previous bosses had told me about, hey, there's this new field called cybersecurity, or it wasn't even called cyber back then. It was called like information assurance. Yeah, and I looked into it, took a couple of certifications, and I really wasn't sure. When I did some research, it seemed very male dominated.
Yes.
And unfortunately, it kind of still is, but it's too late now because, 20 years later, I kind of stuck with it and just, went up the ladder. I started with ethical hacking because it just seemed really fascinating to me how easy it is to, um, really
Break
get
in.
a hold of some, hacking and,
Yep.
ethical hacking. I used to practice on my fiance's computer, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like you have the same password for every little thing. Luckily, I didn't scare him off because now he's my husband. But
Fantastic. Yeah, well, there's a
uh,
right way in life and a wrong way of life, and you talk a lot about of which we'll go into later about Reiki and life and balance but interestingly for me is that you've had quite a struggle in your own life, and we're going to be taking a deep dive into that. But I want to talk about finding a balance between uh, you know your push to help women become empowered and more present in every aspect of life. I was wondering if you could share a little bit about your perspectives on that.
sure. I was an Indian American immigrant to this
Hmm.
country, and part of it is being an only child, but the other part is just having really strict parents, and that's great in a way. It keeps you focused and directed, and you accomplish a lot. But it almost makes you just too um, how do I put it? It just creates all kinds of subconscious blocks and
Hmm.
fears that and just perceived limitations of yourself.
Yeah.
So it really took me several years. I think I'm actually still working through this, where you really allow yourself. You actually find who you are, your authentic self, and bring that back because you've gotten so far away from your authentic self. So even after, as I was moving my way up in my cyber career, but also just finding my voice again, what I started noticing was, the more I took chances and just put myself out there, the more other people saw that and really got inspired by it. So they started doing the same thing. So I found myself just creating this ripple effect. And the more I saw that, the more just I felt encouraged to just keep going along that route. And I do share publicly. I am very transparent with everything in my life, and
Hmm.
I feel that, the more vulnerability you show to others, the more it opens them up, and you really can bond at that deep level, which is really what we need, I think, in this world.
You give them a safe place to open up and relate to you, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, and especially girls and young women, even as women age, if they haven't resolved their subconscious blocks and their fears and the imposter syndrome, and and trying to be perfect at everything and how to have it all, and be the super mom, which I all from my own personal experiences as well.
Hmm.
Until you find a way to look within yourself and really tackle those things head on, it's really hard to um to conquer life with all of that built in
All those
within
pressures.
you.
I've heard before, and I stand by this, that you are perfect just the way you are. I wonder for you, in terms of your own self development, if you like, what it felt like to suddenly come to the realization that I am good enough just exactly how I am. What sort of empowerment and good feeling did you get from that experience?
It's a process.
Hmm.
I think there's multiple levels to this, multiple layers. As you start to heal one layer, something else will come up, and then you start to heal that layer. So I think as long as we're on this earth in this lifetime, I think this process is just never ending. Which I don't mean it to sound sad and dismal,
No,
but
definitely
as
not.
you
Yeah.
uncover each layer, it just opens up a whole new world that you didn't even know existed.
We're going to talk about the Chaos Guru and a lot of your wonderful work there and how that came to be in a moment. But I wonder, given all the external world pressures at the moment, how do you perceive the world? And when you feel these pressures, do you just switch off? How do you manage your experience, your life's experience?
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning the chaos. So, you know, at multiple points in my life, I thought there was just way too much chaos, and I kind of bunched all the chaos into one category, and I was trying to run from it, hide
Hmm.
from it, dismiss it, ignore it, pretty
It'll go
much do
away.
everything that normal people do.
Yep. Yep. Suppress it.
Kind of just hoping that it'll go away on its own, if I just pretend like it doesn't exist. And of course, as you can imagine, none of that worked. Um, but like I said, everything happens for a reason. So I started looking at, is all chaos bad, or is it only some types of chaos? And that's actually how I came up with my own framework for chaos. So what I
Hmm.
started realizing was that there is the chaos that you really don't want in your life, but there's also chaos that you actually do want in your life.
A good
Because
chaos.
without a good chaos, and I refer to it as the surfer board chaos. Like, if you're a surfer, you're riding the wave, like an ocean wave, then you
Hmm.
have this adrenaline pumping. You're super excited. You just
You're
have this.
alive.
You're alive, and you can see the shore. This is like you love doing it. This is what you want to do, but there's always a sense of fear or anxiousness or nervousness within the surfer, because you really
Yes.
don't know what's going to happen. You might fall off. The wave might be too big and you didn't anticipate that. There might be a shark somewhere. You just never know. But what you do know is that you're doing the right thing. You're doing something you love. You can see the end goal there. And this is what keeps you alive and motivated and fulfilled. Um, Now, that is the good chaos in your normal life as well. When you have that opportunity, that dream, that goal that you're going for, it can seem a little scary at first. What if I do achieve that goal? Then what's going to happen? And that nervousness of public speaking. There's a reason, if you know that, hey, I really want to tell my story, but I'm a little scared because, what do people think about me? But that's the good chaos. Like, yeah, that's okay. You can have that sense of nervousness or fear, but this is the right thing to do for the right reason. So you want to invite that chaos in and then push past that panic point so it opens up a whole new world for you.
This appears to be, I guess, on the surface of it, not knowing much about it, a lot to do with mindset and living in the now. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, mindset is definitely part of the experience. I talk a lot about the mindset and the ugly chaos, because that is where um, rewiring your brain really comes into place. And what I love to teach is being in cyber, also being in wellness, and a mom of three.
Hmm.
I really don't have time to do this 1 hour hypnosis or meditation or anything that takes a really long amount of time. So what I got really specialized in doing is just quick activities and techniques that only take 2 minutes, 5 minutes max
Hmm.
throughout the day. And then the cumulative effect of doing that throughout the day is really what makes a massive impact on your life.
You talked about anxiety before and allowing that feeling coming over you. That's okay. Um, I guess anxiety and fear are next door neighbours. How do we manage fear in our lives? What is your approach with actually dealing with
Yeah.
fear?
So um, fear, in my opinion, is a needed. It's nothing. You shouldn't fear fear.
Mm. Yep.
And the reason for that is it's meant for a reason. It's basically life or death. That's really the main purpose of fear. There's physical danger. Because if you didn't have fear, then you'd just be walking across, middle of a highway, because there's nothing to fear. But that's really the sole purpose of it. We tend to use fear in pretty much everything. If there's emotions or even from a mental state perspective, and that's where we go a little bit too far.
Hmm.
And especially in the Western world, we're really afraid of just emotions. What if somebody says this? Like, okay, well, that's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
It's just an emotion. And sometimes we need that fear as a catalyst for our growth. because it teaches us where do we need the most amount of work. So if we're actually fearing an emotion, then that just means that there's a lot of subconscious level work and mindset level work that we'd have to do from within us, because somebody else might not fear that. And why is that? Or we're always looking to change the external world. Somebody said that, and I felt bad. Well, somebody can say that exact same thing to somebody else, and they don't feel bad. So it's not what they said, it's just how you're processing that and you're reacting to it. And if you're reacting to it badly, that just means that there's something within you that's reacting to that. Maybe there's a trigger that relates to a subconscious block. Maybe it triggers your sense of purpose or your sense of value, or not feeling needed. So I would use fear as just kind of just a voice. It doesn't have to be just loud, humongous voice, and we all live off of a fear-based mindset. It could just be a voice. Okay, and talk to it. It's going to sound really crazy, and people are always looking at me like, you talk to yourself. I'm like, you actually talk to yourself all the time, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah.
Most of the time, you're talking negatively to yourself. So all I'm saying is talk positively to yourself. And it doesn't mean you have to be positive all the time. You just have to kind of ask, like, what am I really fearing? If it's just kind of precautionary methods, then okay, just thank it. Okay, thanks for bringing that to my attention. Now you can reduce your volume a little bit, and then I'll increase the volume of my yeah.
Absolutely. This is wonderful. I'm loving the content. Thank you so very much, Jothi, for sharing. Now, I see that we've really just talked about the personal aspects of how we can navigate these feelings, but in terms of your work with corporates and organizations, where there is a very structured approach to the decision-making process and involvement and, tiers of responsibility, does this chaos change in terms of the approach, or is it very much the same?
Yeah, great question. So the chaos doesn't change, but the way we speak their language changes. So if I brought in energy healing and hypnotherapy to their corporate setting, they might kind of, I might totally not relate to them at all.
Yeah.
So what I started doing is bringing it at a very minutia level, so it's easily digestible techniques, and really give them the why. Because me being a corporate professional and executive as well, I always wanted to know the reason why. So why do I have to do this way? Or what exactly is it doing? And when you know the reason why and how it actually affects your body, you'd be more prone to actually following through with it. So that's where I came up with the 2-minute, 3-minute, maximum up to 5 minutes techniques, because I know we're talking about busy individuals. They have 1,000 other things on their plate. They're trying to put out fires on a daily basis. Plus, they have their home life as well. So no one wants to hear about, take these worksheets and do more homework on yourself, and then now go to the mountains and meditate for 2 hours. Like, no one's going to follow that.
Nobody's going to listen to that. Can I ask, I wonder if we can just, as a parent, and as a parent myself, I'm always interested in the development of my children for their best selves. How does this apply, the Chaos Guru approach apply to your own children? And how can they benefit from it?
Yeah, so I use my own kids as my guinea pigs. I tried using my husband and it didn't
work.
Well.
Oh, you know all my passwords. I'm not telling you anything more.
He doesn't realize I can still find out pretty easily, but let's not go there. Yeah, so everything I teach is all natural, all holistic, and it's easily digestible, so it's easy for kids to do as well. And I try to make it as fun as possible. So if they don't like doing something, then I try to put it in such a way that it's easy for them to understand, or use comic characters. Like there's this one philosophy called positive intelligence. and they talk about the saboteurs versus the sages. And when I try to run that by the kids, like they're like, oh, I don't know what that is. I'm like, oh, how about Darth Vader and the Jedi? And they're like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, Darth
yeah,
Vader's the bad guys. I'm
I
like,
get
yes, yes, exactly the same way.
it.
And yeah, and really it has the same, you can teach, really complicated topics in just such simple terms. And I use a similar philosophy in the corporate world as well, just bringing it in a language that they understand, but it's still the same concept that I would teach in a different atmosphere or environment.
I'm loving it. Thank you so much. I'd love to talk about your authorship work in a moment, but I'd also like to talk about, this is about mind, body, and soul and holistic approach to wellness. I wonder, what does, I guess, somebody's routine look like, should look like, and what are some of the types of foods that they should use to nourish themselves? What is your take on that?
Sure. So one quick technique this is my absolute favorite and everyone seems to love it, is called the Peace Begins with Me fingers. So I could just show it really quick. And this is great for kids as well, especially
Mm-hmm.
young kids. So
Yep.
you just kind of tap your fingers. You can do it on both hands or one hand. So you just tap your
I'm doing it
pointer
now.
finger to your thumb, then your middle, your ring, and then your pinky. And you just keep going like that, for a couple of minutes, and try to really focus on, the tips of your fingers. So as thoughts come in, you want to just slowly, just acknowledge them and then release them, and then bring your attention just back to your fingers and the feeling within your fingers. And you could also use the mantra, peace begins with me.
Me.
Peace begins with me. Peace begins with me. And what that does, it basically trains your mind to acknowledge the fact that everything begins with you. And especially peace, you can replace the word peace with calm or love or any of those positive and anything that makes you remember and bringing it back to
Mm-hmm.
within you. And it also takes your mind off of the 10,000 other things
Oh, yeah.
that you probably have going on.
Yep.
Yeah, and then just tapping your fingers, it causes your nerve endings on your fingers to get activated. So that then causes your whole energetic system to get more into a state of balance and ease and flow.
I love it. I have a personal interest in Reiki. I've followed it for many years. I'd love to talk a little bit about that side of yourself because I know that you're a Reiki master amongst other things. Talk us through that side of your life.
Yeah, so that started with the birth of my third baby. Long story short, I had a negligent OB that left me almost paralyzed and
Oh,
bedridden for about a year
wow.
after it was a C-section.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me about 2.5 years to really get back to 100%, where I can actually move and dance again and just be myself. But because of that experience, at some point in time, I was actually given 6 weeks to live because it was just in just dire shape. Yeah, so I know this is
Doesn't get much
not
worse, does it?
the yeah, yeah. I went from being my best day with my third baby being born to being, being given 6 weeks to live, which was a drastic turn to
Mm.
the other side. But that is what made me really look into holistic and alternative medicines and therapies, and really I didn't take any sort of prescription medicine after I started that journey, and I was able to get myself past the 6 weeks, and also just really recover fully and probably in the best shape and health and wellness in my life than I've ever been before. So one of those modalities was energy healing and Reiki. So I'm a true believer that really did help me heal from all of my, everything that the OB had done. And at some point in time, when I started feeling much better, then I started learning a lot of these modalities for myself so I can now, help others.
Yeah, I love that, the idea of the chakras and, energy healing through symbolism and all those wonderful things that are involved with Reiki. Thank you for sharing. Now, I'd love to talk a little bit about your authorship. Can you share us a little bit about that?
Sure. So, yeah, I love writing. I've been writing since I was a kid, and it's another way that I like to express myself. One through the performing arts, and the other one through writing.
Mm-hmm.
So I have two books coming out. One is in October, I believe. So I wrote a chapter in a larger book where we had 25 authors come together, and each of us wrote a chapter, which is like this. It's by Laura DiFranco, and it's called The Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing,
Uh-huh.
Volume 3. And so my chapter is about bringing using chaos as your superpower to become badass leaders. Um, that's the first book, and then I have my own book coming out most likely in January of 2021 with everything about chaos. Most likely it's going to be called Chaos Loves You, so let's love it back. Where we'll really go a lot further in detail on the ugly chaos, the bad chaos, the good chaos, and how, multiple different tips and techniques on how to release the ugly, become aware of the bad, so we can change it into the good, and then how to invite the good chaos into our
I,
lives.
I have a very special place in my heart for book authors because I know in and of itself it is a journey to write a book. Do you find the process easy for you to write, or is it something you've had to learn?
That's a great question. I love writing. I think what happens is when I start to write the book, then you put so much pressure on yourself for making it the best book possible that
Yeah,
then it just almost stops you from writing.
yep. You become paralyzed.
um, yeah, so I really did need some coaching and someone to really help me get going and kind of release my own blocks when it came to writing. And so I actually ended up using a ghostwriter for my main book, not for the chapter. The chapter was a lot easier
Yeah,
because it's just one chapter.
yeah.
But for the main book, and even though we were kind of taking turns with the writing, at least if there's someone there to lay out the basics that I can then take to edit and write it like more elaborately. So I think I just needed someone to keep me going, not lose motivation, and not make it perfect. And they're there to kind of do all that editing at the end.
It's nice to have somebody who has experience behind you, and I think this is what is important on this call is to know that you are there. Now, I've seen on your website some wonderfully warm feedback about the work that you're doing. Now, when people get to your website, what is the process that you will take them through as part of the Chaos Guru program?
Sure. So the first thing would be to just book what I call a chaos clarity call. And it's just a 60-minute call, and I can guarantee within the call itself, you will have some clarity on all the chaos that's going on in your life. And I do offer individual and corporate programs where it's a really transformational program that will, at the corporate level, it boosts the success, happiness, and just morale of teams. And it gets them to that point where they're really able to identify with themselves and others from an authentic point of way. And then for individual level, since I've gone through, I basically use all the techniques and modalities and tools that have really worked for me, going from trauma to triumph, and that's what I take people through as well. So any sort of trauma that they've gone through in their life,
Mm-hmm.
chronic pain, even certain dis-eases, like a dis-ease of the body.
Yes.
We're able to find out that through all of these natural and holistic methods, you're really able to release all of this disease from your body to um, to really catapult your life in a positive direction.
There seems to be obviously the corporate environment that you work with, as well as on a personal level. What are some of the time frames? Are there sort of set times that you can expect to see or feel a change? Is it a long process?
So that's a great question. It depends. So if you're a child, because I do work with children as well, and you've only been doing, putting the bad fuel into your body for 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
it should be a fairly quick method to release that bad fuel and put in the good fuel. If you're 40, then, you've been putting that bad fuel into your system for 40 years. So it's not going to be, an overnight shift,
Mm-hmm.
but the program is 8 weeks, and it seems like, oh, I know I've had some people, tell me, oh, 8 weeks. I'm like, well, how long have you been doing this to yourself?
Yeah.
And how bad is your pain, and how badly do you want to release that pain? So if you think about it, 8 weeks is nothing compared to how many years you've actually been using that bad fuel. But even within the 8 weeks, even within the first week, with the exercises and the techniques and just the boost that you're getting to your system, you'll start noticing a difference. So it doesn't take too long.
Well, there seems to be an opportunity to unlearn and unwind some of the past through this process. Now, importantly, where are people going to find you if they want to learn more?
Sure. My website's www.jothidugar.com. That's JOTHIDUGAR.com. And it should be fairly straightforward. There's a chaos clarity call right in the middle of the page. That would be the easiest way to touch base with me and just fill out the questions so we could really work together on helping you transform your life and or your organization as well.
Thank you so very much for sharing. Now, everybody who's on the call with me today, as is customary, I will be making the links back to Jothi and all of her wonderful content on her website at jothidugar.com. No matter where you see this call, you will find the links back to Jothi. Jothi, you are a wonderful individual, a warm and wonderful soul. Thank you so very much for sharing your message on the My Future Business show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.